In the John Grisham version of Runaway Jury, since he created this world, the Roar character was just as rapacious and ambitious and sort of corrupt as the defendant's attorney, and certainly as Rankin Fitch, the Hackman character. And in the script, we evolved so there was more of a dynamic shift between the two. And as such, once we had Dustin Hoffman in the movie, which happened pretty early on, we all knew we had to have a scene between these two guys. It became the big task over the period of months development and even during shooting to get that scene right.
Yes, that scene was not in the original script. Dusty had started the film, I think in the first part of November of last year. Had worked, I think, 4 or 5 weeks, and then I came in and we overlapped a couple of weeks. They wanted a scene between the two of us, but they didn't have the time to write that. So Dusty finished his work and went off the month of December. I finished in mid-December, and then we came back in January, the last couple of days of shooting on the film in New Orleans, and they had written this terrific 7-minute scene.
You know, the bathroom scene between Gene and I was just one of those things. Gene gets hired to do a part in this movie before I do. I get hired, I don't know how many weeks later. The director is talking to Gene or I can't remember, suddenly realizes, what, you guys know each other? For all those years, you never worked together? Oh my God! And so, you know, we credit Gary Fleeter.
We were both very pleased to, to go back to do that. It was great fun.
We only had one 12-hour day to shoot this 5-page scene. So the challenge for me was, how do we pull it off? And the answer was rehearsal.
Your average juror is not King Solomon. He's a roofer with a mortgage and wants to go home, sit in his Barca lounger and let that cable TV walk over him.
A lot of times in films, I don't like to rehearse. I'd rather rehearse on camera. I'd rather have the tension of the moment, the immediacy of trying to do it at that particular time and rehearse for the crew. And there's always, 30 or 40 people standing around watching you. So there is a bit of tension there. There's a bit of, hey, I got to do this. I'm on the line here. I like that. I really enjoy that process of putting myself on the line constantly.
So we had an almost, I think, 4.5 or 5 hour rehearsal the day before we shot that scene in New Orleans, talking about every beat and the text and the words and reading through it and finding things out.
You call a system that we have in our courts colored bubbles? A system that calls for 12 people to sit and listen to testimony? No, that ain't no colored bubbles. That's a system, Fitch.
And then after 2.5 hours of that, we took the scene onto the set and began to sort of walk and then block the scene. And it was a very organic process. This is the interesting thing about that scene, is that these two great actors, both of whom have won, I think at least 2 Oscars per actor, they were still nervous. And they still wanted to perform and to achieve and to show how, to show the best version of this scene of their work.
We have a tenacity of trying to get what we believe to be is authentic. And we have, at the same time, it has not solved an insecurity that has remained constant for all this time. I'm not sure that's a bad thing.
No, it's a good thing. You know? Absolutely. It's a good thing because it keeps you alive in a strange way. You're never secure. You're always on the edge. Always on the edge.
You feel like you don't know it. Yeah. You haven't found the key.
Somebody asked me,
you're a student.
Specific things about acting. I couldn't tell you specific things about it. I can tell you kind of intuitive kind of things.
Don't do that. Really? Yeah. You messing with my what's the line?
Messing with, this is about my witness.
Yeah, hey, don't do that. This is about my witness. You're messing with my case, my client, and the rules of all that govern the country here. So don't do that.
The country?
Yeah.
Oh, I've been thinking for a patriot, Mr. Roy.
The rehearsal process that day was about getting rid of the nerves. And therefore on the tape you'll see Dustin and Gene playing around with the text and the staging, and I think that was part of the idea of just breaking the tension, of relaxing, because I certainly felt the pressure that here we had this one day to shoot the scene everyone would be looking for. In fact, as we record this now, there's all this sort of press about this being the first scene together in their entire career. And that pressure was real, and it was palpable.
We were hearing the hype, and neither of us liked it, First time we worked, oh boy, this is gonna be something. And they would say, oh, De Niro and Pacino, they did Heat. Oh, you gotta do it. I mean, when we looked at each other, what the, it's just two old guys talking in the bathroom. Give us a break.
Ready?
Yep.
Boom.
When people ask me how Gene and Dustin were different as actors, I'd say that they're both brilliant actors, but very different. And I think that what's wonderful is that Gene sort of will find a choice as an actor, and typically the right choice, the best choice, and play that choice his 2 or 3 or 4 times. Whereas Dustin is again, he's getting the full range.
I think the truth of it is that I think one thing that differentiates maybe Gene and I is I do like to do extensive research. I know Gene has told me that he's done some in the past. He certainly did it on French Connection. But I just enjoy it.
I try to make everything as real as possible because from there then you can get into whatever, poetry or whatever. For me, the most important thing is tension in the scene. And I feel that scenes are best when they have a great deal of tension, and then you work maybe against that. You don't necessarily try to further that. Once you have established it, then you try to do a variety of things to make that interesting for an audience.
Jerry cares anything about negligent distribution or goddamn right they do. You know, most of them can't even say the word. Oh, fuck it. Fuck that cutting shit. Do it without the camera. Fuck yeah.
Gene, in fact, is a very sort of quiet guy, very soft-spoken, and it's easy to take an idea he has as simply just kind of a throwaway suggestion. In fact, everything he says has meaning.
Can we stop?
Stop.
I thought I saw a light change.
Something just went out.
It was kind of tense for me. I don't know what it was for you, but to have a scene, a 5-page scene, kind of hanging over your head for Dusty it was about 6 weeks, and for me a month. It was stressful, and I knew it was going to be. I worked real hard on the lines, which I normally don't do. I like to keep it a little bit fresh and kind of searching.
Well, you had big chunks of monologue.
Every fucking line in the script we got.
You know, one of the things we were talking about is that when you do stage, you think, oh, I can't wait to do a stage play. We were talking about this yesterday because this was like an elongated version, because when you're doing a play, we shared that, is that when you wake up in the morning, you open your eyes, and the first thing you think of, I got to do a play tonight. Am I going to be any good? Is the audience going to be there? Am I going to be able to, you know, and anybody who's done a play, you walk around all day with this cloud over your head.
There's a kind of a fear of getting too far away from the work.
I don't think I ever done a film before where you finish and then you know, usually you're in a movie and you get in that kind of groove of, oh, okay, this feels all right, and you can stay there until you're done with the movie. Now you're done with the movie, and you go on about your life, and that thing goes away. And I think what Gene's talking about is you don't know whether you're going to get that back. I mean, it's ephemeral. So
there's a kind of a letdown after a movie too. I mean, like that you're holding yourself together. And for me,
exactly.
I never had that. So this past 6 weeks or whatever, I was still kind of up, and this gorilla was sitting there on my shoulder. But as it turned out, we both feel it was good work.
Which leads us to believe it'll be cut out of the movie after the first
probably, because there wasn't any young people in the scene.
None, no. We wanted a girl to walk through in a bikini and say, oh, I thought it was the ladies' room.
We're talking about my client, my case, and the system of law that has governed this country from way back, that you would just kill him. I have no fucking idea what to say to you.
There was something that happened. I complimented the director last night. It was a great accident, and that was we're at the sink, and it's a set, so they got these things holding up the sink, these legs, the iron legs, and I hit it one time, and because it's just a set, it fell over during a take, and it's like it just collapsed.
All right, it's not a very good bathroom.
I looked at it, and we laughed, and I picked it up, tried to keep the dialogue going, try to put it back, because you're on stage, that's what you do on stage, you just keep going.
A system of law that over 200 years, here, let's get rid of it, keep the scene going. A system of law for over 200 years, a system that calls for 12 people to sit and listen to the testimony of witnesses, and that includes my witness, Fitch, that you just, go back. A system of law, and that includes my witness, and that includes my witness, fella, that you just disappeared.
And he didn't cut. Most directors will say cut, and he did not cut. And I think that literally broke the ice.
Yeah.
And we started, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No. And after that, we started kind of playing, which was, that's why they call it a play, actually. is because you play, and when you do play, I think people watching it enjoy it.
And you get your name in the paper. But Jacob Wood and all the other gun violence victims, they remain rotting in their crypts. If I knew this next line, I would say it, obviously. If I knew it, I would help you.
Your incentive is as false as mine.
For me, it was great fun working with Dusty, because Dusty's the kind of actor that whatever I said or did, any inflection, you would pick up on it and
Well, you're the same way.
and give it back, so that you get this little ping pong match going. Some people can do that, some people can't, and it was great fun to do that.
Well, is that why you're in this? Is that why you're in this, to protect the Constitution?
Of course not. I'm in it to win, just like you are. Because that's what I was hired to do. Everything else is just colored bubbles.
I moved too soon. Is that why you're in this, to protect? Is that why you're in this, to protect the Constitution? Is that it?
No, I'm in it to win, just like you are, because that's what I was hired to do. Everything else is colored bubbles.
Colored bubbles? That's what you call a rule of law that's been in this country for over 200 years? Colored bubbles? A system that says there's 12 people that sit and listen to the testimony and hear I'm coming in. Colored bubbles? That's what you call a system of law we've had in this country for over 200 years? A system that calls for 12 people to sit and listen to testimony of witnesses, Fitch, and that...
I think the spine of the washroom scene is, in a sense, the disarming honesty of the villain. And it's not only in the writing, but I think it's in the brilliant choices that Gene Hackman made. He's the first to say that when he gets the part of a so-called villain, he tries to find the humanity of the character. That's all he cares about, because everything else is there.
Interesting when you do a character that you don't politically you don't believe in, and to do it as fully as you can. That's the fascinating thing about acting, I think.
Well, it's such a nice story, Wendell. Really. It's just further proof of why you can't beat me. Because you may be right, but the thing of it is, I don't give a shit. What's more, I never have.
Toward the end, like in the 11th hour of doing this scene, I started hearing things that I hadn't heard. That was really strange. Yeah. And if I'd had the strength, I would have asked the director to continue on, because I started hearing things that one could do. You probably did the same thing, but we were kind of finished. We were knackered.
Well, stage actors, I mean, if you're originally trained as stage actors, which we were, that's the way it is. Especially when you get an audience. You rehearse for like 3-4 weeks, and the first time there's an audience there, it's like you're hearing stuff that you've never heard before, because you're hearing it through them. So somehow that may have, I think that took place also. Yeah.
So we should thank Gene and Dustin.
We want to thank you. Gene, and this was Gene's idea. None of you have to work after the shot.
The hard thing would be if we had another scene like that to do today.
Oh, man.
That would be really tough.
It's a good story, Mr. Roy. But it's just further proof of what you can't beat me. Because you may be right. But the thing of it is, I don't give a shit.
I'm not going to do that for this one.
Is that the end?
We should stop rehearsing, right?
You were just out of high school at Pasadena Playhouse, weren't you?
I was out of high school. I went almost a year to City College, and I was so bad in my grades that I took an acting course just to get 3 credits, because they said nobody flunks acting, so I took it. And after that, I said, okay, I want to be an actor, and I didn't think I was any good. I just didn't want to go to work, go to the service. I heard about the Pasadena Playhouse. I go there, 2-year school, and I meet Gene. I think I met him in the first month. I don't remember how we met.
We were in a couple of classes together.
That's right. That's right. I think we did Mice and Men, a scene from Mice and Men.
And we did an improv once of.
That's right.
Uncle Remus or something. I don't know.
That's right, you were Uncle Remus.
Yeah. But I was much older than almost everybody in the class.
Well, you got in on a GI Bill.
Yeah, I was.
You'd been in the Marines.
I had been in service for a while.
You'd been in China. Mm-hmm. He went into the Marines when he was like 13.
But I didn't get any encouragement at the Pasadena Playhouse. I was kind of a big lummox kind of a person.
He lasted 3 months.
And so
They graded you, and you, after the semester or whatever, in your mailbox, there was a slip of paper, and they graded you for characterization, gestures, articulation, makeup, you know.
Movement.
He got, the lowest that they'd ever given anyone was like a 2 point or something out of possible 10. He got a 1-3, I think.
I think that's true.
And he was let go. And he said to me, I said, where are you going? He said, I'm going to New York.
I'll show him.
And he said, if you ever get to New York, look me up. And then I came to New York 2 years later, and that's when he said, you can stay in my apartment. He had 1 bedroom and a very small living room that was really a living room with a kitchen. I mean, it was not very many square feet on 2nd Avenue, 30th Street, something like that.
26th Street.
26th Street. He said, you can stay there for a couple nights. And then I wouldn't leave. Because
I had to take him out and,
would not leave.
go
I was
up and down the
scared.
streets of New York looking for an apartment.
I was scared shitless. How did the bongos and the conga come about?
I don't know.
We'd go up on the roof and play. I'd play bongos, he'd play conga.
I think that probably came from our love of Brando, maybe.
Yes, that's right. We used to hear that he played in clubs.
So we wanted to be like Brando.
That's right.
I'll tell you a story about Dusty.
I know what you're going to tell. You're going to tell about the money you lent me. I know you're going to tell this fucking
Such
story.
a funny story, I think. I go over to Dusty's little apartment in Pasadena one time, and he says, hey, can you loan me some money? I said, yeah. My wife was working. I wasn't working, but my wife was working. So
We both lived
I
off
said, how
the
much you need? He said, I don't know, $5 or whatever. And
More than that.
So I go into his kitchen, and he has these mason jars up on a ledge. And one of them says rent, one of them says entertainment, one says books, one says about 5 of them, all
Phone,
labeled.
electric.
And they all had money in it, except the one that said food. And that didn't happen to have any money. So I said to him, well, you don't need any money, you got money. He says, I can't take the money out of the other jars. I think your mom probably told you that was the
That's
way
right.
to
That's right. Or my father.
borrow money from Gentiles.
That's right. No, and don't pay them back. Psychologically, Gene, myself, we did not think about making it in the terms that people think about it. I mean, we fully expected to be failures for our entire life, and not meaning that we would always be scrambling to get a part. We were actors, and we had no pretensions or you know.
Well, there was a kind of a feeling of, you know, Jack Kerouac at that
right.
time on the road, and you know, kids really just wanted to have a good time and kind of experience things. And as Dusty says, it hadn't had anything to do with being successful.
There was more dignity in being unsuccessful. We didn't call each other.
We just showed up on the set.
Said, how you doing?
Hey, what's
I
happening?
haven't seen you in a while.
You been working?
Yeah, for the last 46 years, once in a while. If I do get a phone call from Gene, I've just done a film, and he'll say, I saw such and such, you were a piece of shit. And then he just hangs up.
Or one of us will say, very interesting.
That's right. I saw that film, very interesting.
You did it again.
Yeah. Or I saw that film, that was a tough role.
Yeah. How many actors could pull that off?
Because you're not one of them.
Yes, right.
Actors will say, but my character would. I always say, well, who was the character? I mean, there's no such thing. It's this amorphous thing. I mean, you barely know yourself. How are you going to know something that's fictional, even another person? So don't you take those characteristics that they give Gene or that they give me, and you then make it a part of something that you can touch, identify. Yeah, I have that in me. I have that in there. And then you just let that, and then forget about it. And then, because you're you. But once you're doing those characteristics or whatever, you alter a little bit. You can't help it. You're not thinking about it. And then what comes through for an audience is a character. But you're not thinking character. thinking that.
The guy you played in Midnight Cowboy, would you know, probably if you knew Dusty well, you'd say there's no. What part of Dustin is in that character? What was his name?
Ratso Rizzo.
Ratso Rizzo.
Enrico Rizzo.
Yeah.
Well, that.
But there's a lot. There's a lot of things
yes.
you can find in yourself that is like, and then there's externals that you add to that.
Say, okay, I got an accent, I got a limp, whatever. But I mean, it's if you can't touch that. I mean, if you don't, in other words, that wasn't the reach for me. Now, if I see that movie now, I see a lot I'd like to take down. Believe me, I could make a lot of shit more subtle, which I wish I had had a chance to do then. But nevertheless, I did identify because I was an outsider. I couldn't, and well, both of us were. I couldn't get a date. I got pimples, whatever. I mean, I had no way. I had no way to charm or get. I mean, I couldn't even finish a dial on the phone trying to get a girl. I mean, so in that sense, it was. I mean, I felt ugly. I felt ugly. But I was talking about to you the other day about his work. Is that it's. I don't, as well as I know Gene, I don't know where, because he works the same way, but I don't know where I don't know where he got, let's say, the conversation from. I know where he got Scarecrow from, I know, because I know that part of him, and I know where he got, and people didn't realize, I know where he gets that Frankenstein, I know where, because I know that fucking zany thing that in him. But that character, let's say, in Conversation, and even Popeye Doyle, because there's a, that's, if you know Gene, you've seen the parts of that. But the concentration was, it just took me, I said, Jesus. Because I did think it was as well, and I knew him for years, my God. And I thought that's another person. What
There's an example of somebody setting up atmosphere. Francis Coppola will set up an atmosphere for an actor because he likes actors. He enjoys it, and he knows that if his work is going to be good, the actor's work has to be good. And he will set up the atmosphere for you to work in. That's, for me, that's primary.
Well, what were you thinking about in terms of that kid? Were you just thinking isolation?
Yeah, I had an uncle that looked very much like him.
I see.
And I also, I knew somebody very well when I was in the Marine Corps who was probably ended up being a serial killer or something, but he was this guy who was, you could not break that.
We are no different. Certainly he's no different. I mean, it's the same person. It's literally the same person as when we were bumming around in the late 50s in New York. No different in...
We get together and the first thing we start talking about is girls.
Yes.
I mean, it's just...
I mean, that's all we talked about then.